last point about accepting that America's past is complicated, is that a way to understand the current Republican revanchism? Like, they just can't deal with complications. How someone could have voted for Obama but still be racist, or that gender might be more complicated than the sex assigned at birth.
You know, I like to think that my patriotism has a backbone. And when I say that, what I mean is that I can examine this country and say I love it, and also accept the ways that it's flawed and has failed and continues to fail. I mean, this place did not begin as a truth-telling place. Thomas Jefferson wrote, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal," as he owned his own wife's sister, as he owned his and her brother, and then proceeded to own his own children. So, we have been a failed and half-truth-telling place since our inception. And I think that every step toward truth-telling is radical and precious. I think about the clip you showed of the woman rejecting the Toni Morrison book, and I think to myself, like, my God, like, this unexamined presumed fragility of white children becomes the adult reckless bias that becomes lethal and gets people killed and divides across party lines in ways that are so fractious and democracy shattering. We've really got to get a little bit more of a backbone.
I really like that line. I like to think my patriotism has a backbone. One of the things I was talking with Charles Blow about in the previous segment was about how this conversation we're having about history seems to be one way, that we're all focused on the tender feelings of white students, but not thinking about those black and brown students in those same classrooms who are being denied a true, accurate, and full accounting of our nation's history and how that impacts their own lives today.
Absolutely. I've been the only black kid in a lot of white classrooms. I went to primarily white institutions for the majority of my education in Tennessee. And I've lived through the pain of having what I understand to be the truth examined or silenced when I brought it up or asked questions, or had my presence become something of pain and discomfort to my classmates because I reminded them of a harder truth than their parents thought that they were ready to hear, even though it was the lived experience of my black body in this white Southern space. And I think about, this situation at Montpelier. It's upsetting to me, but it's past that. It's wearisome because I do find that, well-meaning white people, there were 3, people in meaningful leadership positions that were just ousted who were unaware of the limitations of the people that they'd known, often for decades. And that can be so deeply dangerous to progress because, if you're a well-meaning person and you stumble into right-minded practices without any sense of strategy or the obstacles that you'll face from these other nice white people that you've known socially, or perhaps they're even in your family, you stand astonished when your new ideas of progress are rejected or ejected. You never had to learn to navigate the systems that, you or I or Charles had to learn to navigate because they were simply born into them. And then there's surprise and their underestimation of the prejudice that's embedded in the systems and organizations that they know and love and grew up in and around. It's causing an almost insurmountable quantity of deferred maintenance to this American project, and it's terrifying to me.